We'll call the meeting to order. Good evening, all. It is 7:30 p.m., Wednesday, September 11, 2024. This is a meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge. This meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge is being held remotely and recorded via Zoom due to Borough Council Chambers unavailability and is in compliance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act and associated regulations. Notice of this remote meeting was published in the Bergen Record, posted on the front doors of Borough Hall, and posted on the borough's website. The notice included the dial-in and login information necessary for public participation and access to this meeting remotely. A copy of the agenda for this meeting was made available on the borough's website near the posting of the meeting notice and included the dial-in and login information. During the public comment period of this meeting, if you would like to make a public comment, please press the raise hand button on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. The board will address you by name or by the last 4 digits of your telephone number. You may mute and unmute yourself by pressing the microphone icon on Zoom or dialing *6 on your telephone keypad. You must state your name and address clearly prior to making a public comment. With that, I will turn it over to Ms. Steinle to call the roll.
Thank you. The mayor is excused tonight. Mr. Caslin?
Here.
Ms. Boland?
Here.
Mr. Merman?
Here.
Mr. Pfeffer?
Here.
Mr. Cray?
Here.
Mr. Kanigo? Don't see him yet. Councilman Glass is excused tonight. Mr. Gibbons?
Here.
Mr. Bastide? Don't see him
Don't see him
either.
yet. Yeah.
And also present, Mr. Behrens, the board planner, and Jason Flores, serving as our board attorney tonight. Or board engineer, sorry,
You're the board
hopefully.
attorney. Thank you.
I don't mind having the law degree.
All right. Thank you. So at this time, I would ask if we could observe a moment of silence as we remember the events of September 11th, 2001, and those whose lives were lost on that day. Thank you. As we continue on our agenda for this evening's meeting, I don't believe we have minutes from the August 28th meeting, so we'll proceed on to completeness review. The applicant is Ms. Yunjung Kim. The property is 254 Midland Avenue, Block 105, Lot 12. Application seeking approval for a detached garage and driveway. Ms. Steinle.
Yes, thank you. Prior to the meeting, I reviewed the proof submitted by the applicant and found them to be sufficient for the board to hear the application tonight.
Okay. Mr. Behrens.
Sorry, just trying to get off mute here. So we typically aren't reviewing single-family applications, but having spoken about this application prior to the meeting, my understanding is that there are some completeness issues that the board should discuss with the applicant before proceeding. I think there may be an opportunity to proceed, but Mr. Flores, do you mind jumping in? I believe your review memorandum had a few incomplete items to discuss with the applicant.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, so we received the site plan, the site plan architecture plan done by Mr. Santini, an architect located in Wood Cliff, and part of the application that was part of the package that was submitted was a small, it was a snip of the survey, and part of that shows that the survey was recently done back in 2023. However, after we went to the site in order to be able to verify if the existing condition matches what is, what is out there, we find out that there were, a lot of discrepancies. So the existing survey does not match what's out there. So all the calculations for the zoning review based on the impervious coverage and the lot coverage were based on that survey, which now all of that is not accurate anymore. So that was the reason why we recommend to the board to deem the application incomplete, since we don't know the accurate numbers and the changes that are going to be done within the within the property. I believe the applicant is present today, and I believe the professional are present today. But that's something just to point it out, since in the past we have some issues not having the real, not having the survey or the site plan matching what's out there currently.
So, Mr. Flores, if I may, could I ask you just for distinguishing, are the materials that were submitted sufficient to move forward from a completeness standpoint? Putting aside the fact that there may be some inconsistency in what's actually depicted, have they submitted materials that would allow us to move forward on the application and address those items in testimony? And
Okay, this is where the discrepancy comes. They're in front of the board because of the lot coverage and the impervious coverage, as well as the maximum height and the front yard setbacks for the accessory building. So not having the right information for the lot coverage and improved lot coverage, what they're going to be seeking for, I'm not sure how can we proceed with that, unless the applicant is revise the plans ahead of time. I haven't received anything new.
well, if I can just ask the question again, is from your professional judgment, is it something that we can establish by way of testimony and submission of revised plans at a later date? Or is this something that we can't, because of the nature of what you're seeing, we can't even deem the application complete? I'm trying to just distinguish here is whether or not we have enough materials to get the application complete from a legal standpoint, moving on for hearing and address those items, in hearing, or if their deficiencies are such that we can't even proceed forward on a completeness.
Just give me 1 second. In order to respond to that, give me just 1 second. I want to confirm something.
While Jason's confirming, I think, again, the application is for a detached garage and driveway. So, the materials submitted seem sufficient to move forward. But again, there's the question of accuracy. So, technically the box may have been checked with respect to the required items. But again, there's a question of accuracy. So if they're showing they need, let's say, a coverage variance of 40%, I'm making this up, but it's actually 43%, certainly not going to be able to resolve the issues tonight unless they have the actual numbers. And I think this is an opportunity to turn it over to the applicant and see if they have rectified, the information.
Thank you. Yes. So, like Mr. Tom Perrin said, yes, they check the boxes. However, the information provided is not accurate. So I'm not sure how can the board vote on the application not having the correct information.
Okay, so it's still your recommendation that we deem it incomplete.
Correct.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Merman.
we're just deeming the application complete from a legal standpoint as to whether notifications and so forth were issued and return receipts and so forth. Once we do that, then we could go on to the application itself, and we can deal with the incompleteness of the applicant's survey and information and so forth. I suggest that the board seriously consider the application complete from a legal notification, so forth standpoint, and then we can move on and we can entertain Jason's comments regarding the site paperwork as being accurate or not.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Merman. Others on the board? Thoughts?
I agree with that.
So if I can chime in, if the board deems the application complete, it doesn't have to, completeness from the standpoint of the land use law, it doesn't have to do with the notice. The notice is for whether the board can act on an application. Usually, so if the board would have to make a decision on completeness, meaning the application materials, they checked all the boxes, and they would have to come back at a later date to revise the plans. Or we can address some, and we can take testimony tonight to make sure that the plans are revised in the right way, what Jason needs.
I think from what you just said, I think that makes the most sense. I don't know if anybody on the board has objections to that.
I'll follow our professionals.
Do we need a motion?
We do need a motion.
I'll make a motion that for completeness purposes, that submitted materials as to the legal aspects of notifications and so forth be accepted.
It's not, so the motion has to be to deem the entire application complete. It's not about the notice is separate from completeness. So the board would have to be comfortable with deeming the application complete tonight and having the applicant revise the plans after some testimony provided.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're considering completeness versus correctness. Is that what we are?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
So essentially, it's as somebody mentioned, I think it was Tom or Jason, it is checking the boxes that they can proceed, we can proceed forward, hear testimony tonight and address those comments. And from my perspective, it sounds like that would be a better use of resources at this point to get them into testimony, hear what changes need to be made, and allow for revisions to the plans to take place. So, Mr. Canigo?
Didn't Mr. Flores, though, tell us that in his professional opinion, it should not be deemed complete? So now we're going against our professional's advice. Unless
No, I think there's a
misunderstood what he said.
technical, no, I disagree. There's a distinction here. I think there's a distinction between completion and correctness. I agree with Mr. Flores that there's probably things that are not correct on the plans, but we can address those in testimony and allow revisions to be made, and that might be a more efficient use of resources to let the applicant and their professionals have the benefit of comments from us this evening in testimony, allow them to revise the plans and move things along more efficiently. So I think that there are two different questions here, completeness versus correctness. And I think we're getting lost a little bit.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Pepper?
just hopefully this is somewhat helpful. I think that what I'm hearing is that all the required materials to be reviewed by the board have been submitted. That would make the application complete. It doesn't mean that we're approving the application. It just means the application is complete and ready for our review. And so if that's the case, then we would still have an opportunity after deeming the application complete, we would still have an opportunity to hear testimony, question the accuracy of the materials, and if necessary, ask the applicant to come back with revised or corrected information. So if my understanding is correct, then I would simply make a motion, which I'm doing now, make a motion to deem the application complete and allow us to move forward later this evening with taking testimony and reviewing the accuracy of the materials to decide whether or not we want to approve the application.
Okay. So before we move forward on that motion, I believe Mr. Merman had made a motion. Ms. Steinle, do we have to have him? Do we have a motion on the table right now before Mr. Pfeffers? Just want to make sure the record's clear.
So Mr. Merman's motion was never seconded,
Okay.
so it would just die.
Okay, so Mr. Pfeffer's made a motion for completeness of the application. Is there a second?
I'll second
I'll
it.
second it. All right.
I think we have a second from Ms. Boland. Okay, Ms. Steinle?
All right, Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes,
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
No.
Mr. Kanigo,
No.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
and is Mr. Bastide here? No.
No.
Okay, so the motion passes.
Okay. Thank you. We're gonna move the agenda around a little bit this evening. We're gonna go to old business now. Applicant is Sweet Spot River Edge LLC. Property is 75 Route 4 East, Block 1415, Lot 1.01. This is the continuation of the application that was heard at our meeting of August 28th, 2024. The applicant is proposing to operate a Class 5 retail cannabis dispensary in the premises at that location. I believe the applicant's counsel is here this evening.
Chairman Attorney Roosevelt Dona of the law firm Murphy, Shaw and Wilkes, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Sweet Spot River Edge LLC.
Okay, you're stepping in for Mr. Gilson this evening, I take it?
I am. Mr. Gilson is a colleague of mine, and regrettably, he's unavailable this evening.
Oh. Okay, well, good evening and welcome.
Thank you. As
So-
mentioned, please, Mr. Chairman.
No, go right ahead.
So as mentioned in your opening, applicant is before you this evening, seeking site plan approval for a Class 5 retail cannabis dispensary at 75 Route 4 East. As mentioned, this is a continuation from the August 28, 2024 application. With me tonight, I have several professionals to present to the board to address concerns and comments that have been made. So with that, I'd like to get started by inviting our project engineer forward to begin our presentation.
Yes, thank you, Roosevelt. And good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, board professionals. Good to be back with you this evening. Again, just for the record, John Dunlay from the firm Neglia Group, appearing here tonight on behalf of Sweet Spot LLC. And Mr. Chairman, if I may, can I share my screen?
Sure, go right ahead.
Great, thank you so much.
And just for the record, Mr. Dunlay was previously sworn and is still under oath today.
Thank you so much. So just to kind of recap the prior hearing, we did receive some, excuse me, sorry.
Nope,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. My apologies. Yep. So we're going off of the prior hearing. We did receive some feedback and comments from the board with respect to circulation, parking, and whatnot. And we talked at length regarding some of those items. Just quickly, this here, what's on our screen here is site plan sheet 2.00. This was submitted to the board in advance, 10 days in advance of the hearing. And just to kind of quickly run through some of the changes on this plan. First off, we added a wayfinding sign here at the center driveway. So what was previously submitted to the board and what was previously presented to the board was an entrance wayfinding sign here on the, I guess we'll call it the easterly side of the center driveway. We added another set of wayfinding signs on the opposite side as requested by the board. And that again is intended to facilitate traffic circulation and egress into the site for the Sweet Spot shop by way of the center driveway. So with that said, as it relates to the wayfinding signs, aside from those two additional signs which were requested by the board at the prior hearing, there's been no additional changes to the plan. However, in addition to that wayfinding signage, we have added stop bars and stop signs in front of the Regency, the Regency building, and as well as just in front of the drive aisle along the Ethan Allen building. And again, those were requests by the board as well as the board engineer, and the intent being to obviously to kind of to control traffic passing through the site. And both these the configuration of all the signage will be MUTCD compliant. In addition, as requested by the board, we did add a stop bar as well as a do not enter and stop pavement markings here at the egress driveway located, I guess I'm configuring my site here. It's at the driveway directly in front of the Sweet Spot building. So again, that was a request by the board, and the intent here with respect to this striping is to discourage vehicles from making right-hand turns into this egress-only driveway. Lastly, with respect to the striping, it was a comment that was that arose in one of the board professionals' letters with respect to owner parking. What we do have here are what we did do between the last hearing and now, and as part of the submission to the board on this plan, was we actually eliminated 2 spaces that would be quote unquote designated for the Sweet Spot building, and we are reserving 2 spaces along the rear of the Sweet Spot building to be reserved specifically for the owner. So moving on, I'm going to move on to the lighting plan, the revised lighting plan, which was submitted to the board 10 days in advance of the hearing. What we did based on some of the comments at the prior hearing was we evaluated the existing lighting sources, and we also looked at adding and supplementing with additional light fixtures. So what we found was, and supported some of the board's comments, was that the area to the rear of the building was obviously very dark. So what we are doing to improve lighting along the rear of the building, when I say the rear of the building, I'm referring to the Ethan Allen building. We're going to add 4 new wall-mounted lighting fixtures to improve lighting along the rear of the Ethan Allen building. The reason for doing so is that, as we testified to at the prior hearing, we do anticipate that the bulk of traffic, vehicular traffic going to the Sweet Spot building will be by way of the center driveway along the rear of the Ethan Allen building, and then entering into the parking area associated with the Sweet Spot building in this location. So in addition to that, we also looked at the existing lighting sources. There are existing light fixtures actually on site. You have 2 floodlights here, as well as a pole-mounted light here, and in addition, and an existing wall-mounted light located here at the corner of the building. So to the extent that those lights will be functional and operational, and they will be turned on, we will ensure that they're turned on. So again, with that said, we believe that the lighting configuration as presented here tonight is sufficient, and those are the changes that we made based upon the board's feedback. So with that, I welcome any questions, comments, concerns that the board may have.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let me turn to our professionals. Mr. Behrens, can I start with you?
Sure. I don't have much at this point. Mr. Dunley, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the very large freestanding Ethan Allen sign has been removed. Is that accurate? You may have covered that. I was driving by the other day and I thought I noticed that it had been removed.
That I'm not sure of. So I have.
I'm not objecting to it. It may help your case, as far as improving visibility to the building. It would seem to help that. It was just something that I noticed. Again, I thought that was the case, but maybe somebody could just confirm that.
Sure.
Beyond that, my one outstanding engineering question is, I know you removed the dumpster from the site plan, but where will garbage and recycling be stored in, with respect to this building at least?
So yeah, so I think we testified at either the first or the second hearing, is that all trash will be handled and recycling will be handled interior to the building.
In the building. All right. Thank you. I have no further engineering questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Behrens. Mr. Flores.
Okay, I'm now. Based on the last revision done on August 30, I believe, by the applicant, they added the stop bar as requested by the board, and they addressed the lighting. So I have no comments on the application on the engineer. I have no questions to the engineer.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let me turn to the board for questions or comments. Mr. Craig, can I start with you?
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Boland?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kanigo?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pfeffer.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gibbons.
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Merman.
No questions.
Okay. I have no questions myself. I'll turn it back over to the applicant. Council.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'd like to invite Mr. Blake Costa forward, Mr. Chairman, to address matters regarding window finishes.
Okay.
Roosevelt, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you again. Nice to see you. As previously discussed during our last meeting, the window coverings, we're going with an opaque vinyl, so no graphics on it. It'll be like basically like a white frost opaque, and we're going to expand the green in for the rooftop generator to accommodate the HVAC rooftop units. Supporting documents were submitted 10 days ago with the other supporting documents. Pending any questions, I will be able to hand it back to Mr. Roosevelt.
Questions from the board? Chief Walker, also open it to you for any questions of the applicant.
I have none at this time.
Okay. We'll go around. Mr. Kanigo.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Boland.
No questions, just a comment. I appreciate you listening to us, and I think the windows look great.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Pfeffer.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gibbons.
No questions this time, thank you.
Mr. Cray.
I have no questions.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Merman.
No questions at this time.
Okay. Mr. Donut, back to you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. We'd like to call up our traffic engineer, Mr. Brian Intindola, just to tie up a few loose ends regarding circulation at the site.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Roosevelt. I think I was previously sworn. As Mr. Dunley, my colleague, has said, we went through the circulation issues that the board had mentioned. And with the directional signage indicating the center driveway is access to the sweet spot location, as well as putting a full manual of uniform traffic control devices signage package, which includes stop sign and stop bar. The site is well signed, both for direction and for traffic control. So I thank you for pointing that out during the application process, and made the site better for all. Thank you. I have no other comments other than what John had piggybacked on, and just reinforcing that it's an MUTCD compliant, and the illumination to the rear of the site also helps with traffic circulation.
Okay, thank you. Let me turn to our professionals. Mr. Behrens?
Nothing at this point. I would just add that I think the application has evolved to reflect what the borough had intended when they adopted the ordinance creating this COZ zone. So I'll commend both the applicant and the board for working together to, refine the project. I think the building looks pretty sharp, and again, I think it mirrors almost exactly what the ordinance intends. So from a technical compliance standpoint, there's one condition which pertains to signage, where wayfinding signage is technically not permitted, but I think everyone at this point agrees that it's a public safety benefit, and so that there's absolutely a justification for having that. Beyond that, I have no further issues. Again, I want to thank the applicant for working with the board, and for the board, for holding the applicant honest and, trying to do a little better. And I think we're in a good spot. So thank you, and good luck.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Behrens. Mr. Flores?
No question at this time, and good luck.
Okay. Thank you. Let me turn to the board at this point. Ms. Boland?
No comments.
Okay, my screen just jumped. Mr. Cray?
I have no questions, no comments.
Okay. Mr. Kanigo?
No comments, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pfeffer?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Gibbons?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Merman?
No questions.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there are no more witnesses this evening.
Okay. Thank you for that. Ms. Steinle, I believe we will need to just open to the public briefly at this point. You're on mute. I think you said yes.
Yes, and I know there is one member of the public that is eager to comment. So if we could open.
I'll move to open to the public.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstained. All right, at this time, we're now open to the public for comment on this application alone. If there's anyone who wishes to be heard on this application, please press the raise hand button. And we do have,
Yes, we have Carmine.
Yes. Tita, correct.
Okay, all right, so if you could just please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
Carmine Tita, T-E-T-A. And I own the restaurant around the corner from this property at 259 Johnson Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
good evening, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Okay,
You can proceed.
thank you. Just to help you guys out a little bit, you want to know what happened to Ethan Allen's sign? The guy coming down the highway who flipped the car and took the sign out and took the guardrail out and closed me down for another 3 days. This is constant accidents at this exit ramp. It is horrendous right there. Every time it happens, it takes out the guardrail, which is the divider between Route 4 and the service road, and it shuts me down. People can't get there. They're not going to go 2 miles out of the way to come to my restaurant. This has been a terrible intersection, and it's not an intersection, I'm sorry. It's a high-speed exit. How do you think these people that are, either smoking reefer or whatever they're doing are going to come out of here in a safe manner? I looked at it, and I give you a better one. How do you think they're going to come? They're going to go around Ethan Allen? No, they're going to cut across the front of Ethan Allen in front of all these people coming in and out of that front door. You guys are making an absolute terrible decision here. I don't know how much the town is getting paid to have a place on a highway in a bad spot like this, but it is a terrible location. I've even spoken to the chief. He told me that you people are actually thinking about hiring 1 or 2 police officers to direct traffic. Oh, that's going to be great on a nice sunny day. What happens in the snow and the rain and they're not standing by the street? This is going to be accidents galore, and it's going to shut me down constantly, as bad as the snow removal that doesn't get done and everything else for the $28,000 a year that I pay. I mean, what else you want to do to make business worse? I don't know. I have a trouble with this. I mean, Liberty Travel was, well, 1 person every 2 to 3 hours. There's nothing like what you're looking at doing here. I've seen the other dispensaries. There's lines of people getting in and out. What are you going to do with the overflow of cars? Let them sit on Route 4? Guys, I don't know. This is not good for me at all. I mean, someone can answer me on this, but since I found out about this 3 days ago, 4 days ago, because I wasn't notified, because I leased that property, I do not own it, and it must have went to the owner. And this is, I've been on the phone with the chief, discussing my displeasure in what you're trying to do here. This is not a safe spot for that. There's going to be more accidents here than you can imagine. Your lighting on the property, your dumpsters, your tinted windows. It's got nothing to do with people coming down that road speeding, motorcycles that are supposed to be doing 50 and they're doing 60, 70 miles an hour. Find out how many times the guardrail's been taken out. All the bushes in front of Ethan Allen, and when the guy hit the sign, he was tumbling, okay? And he shut down that exit ramp because I don't know if he died or whatever happened there. These are all things that happen at that location. People are trying to get off at high speeds, trying to make a tight right onto Main Street. They're trying to go straight. You got buses coming through there. I don't know. You can try to explain to me how you think this is going to work, but So far, what I've seen, it doesn't work. And that's all there is to it. And I don't know. I really don't want to retain an attorney to stop it, but I don't know, unless the town's telling me that they're doing something for me, that every time I get closed down because of an accident, I'm getting paid for that day. Someone's got to tell me something, because so far I get nothing. I have a building across the street from me that's been condemned for, I don't know, since I'm there, almost 5 years. I can't even get you to take the temporary fences down. This guy's getting a dispensary put on a highway and a high-speed exit. Please explain it to me, guys. I'm a little lost. If somebody's, getting big tax on this or something, I don't know, but I don't see it's fair.
Okay, thank you for your statements this evening. Ms. Steinle, do we have anybody else?
I'm sorry, I was frozen, I think.
Yeah, you're frozen again.
I don't think we have anyone. Can you hear me?
Okay, you said nobody else? Okay,
Move to close.
All right.
all right, let's take a motion to close to the public at this time.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kenigo. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Givens. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the abstain. Okay, we're now closed to the public for comment on this application. Final questions from the board or professionals? Okay, I am going to recommend to the board this evening that we contemplate a conditional approval of the application. By conditional, meaning that we will take into account everything that we've heard thus far in terms of submissions and testimony, with the goal that the conditional approval from us will allow the applicant to proceed with their submissions to other agencies for their requisite approvals to allow them to operate their contemplated facility. Once they have that, those approvals in hand, they would come back to us and we could give a final approval. Ms. Steinle, does that comport with?
I would not recommend that. Any action that the board takes on the application will be conditioned upon compliance with everything that the board discussed at the 3 hearings and with the applicant's obligation to obtain other approvals. So we have in the borough, there's resolution compliance reviews where once the board approves an application, the applicant submits plans and drawings, and then the engineering department goes through and makes sure that all of the conditions in our resolution have been met. The applicant is here asking for the final site plan approval tonight. And I don't think that I think that's what the board has to vote on tonight.
So let me ask a question then, and this is for hopefully for the benefit of the board too, is in the event that any of the other agencies in their processing of the applicant's materials require changes that fall within our purview, does that necessitate them coming back to us again, or how would that be addressed?
Yes, so with every application that we approve, if an applicant requires additional agency approval, say like the county planning board, and the county makes changes, then the applicant has to come back to this board and make sure that those changes are okay. We've had that situation, I think, with the Newbridge Landing train station where they went to the planning board, county planning board, and had to make changes and they came back. That would be the same thing here. If any other level of agency makes changes to the plans that are different than what the board is hearing tonight, then we would have to review them again.
Okay, that's my concern, is just to make sure that to the extent there's any changes of what we've already seen and approved, that we have a chance to review those again if another agency requires any any modification. Questions from the board on those aspects?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Merman?
we have developed a list of what we wanted from the applicant, what they've agreed on and so forth. I believe Ms. Steinley has compiled that. I guess my basic question, first of all, is that going to be part of our motion tonight?
Yes, I can read off the conditions that were previously agreed to. I can do that now, and then we can just have it on the record.
Yeah, I'd be looking for a motion at this point from the board.
Okay.
So just if anybody wants to, if there are no questions on the procedural aspects, I'd be looking for a motion at this time.
What would you want in the motion? To read it or what? I'm a little confused here.
Well, if someone on the board wants to make a motion on the application or to move forward on the application this evening and include those conditions, I think that's what I would ask someone to make a motion, and then to the extent we need to read those conditions that have been agreed to, that Ms. Steinley can read those into the record when the motion is made.
I'll make that motion to approve and to move ahead with the changes as discussed by the board over the past several sessions.
So Ms. Steinley, maybe if you could read those conditions.
Okay, so this is an approval. So the motion is for an approval of the site plan, including the D variance for the signage, because that's technically not permitted, the wayfinding signs. So the conditions that were previously agreed were that the applicant shall not install cannabis display tables in the retail floor area, but shall be permitted to install cases with empty packaging and digital displays only. Applicant shall coordinate traffic safety and security with the Borough Police Department and address any issues as same arise. Applicant shall work with the Borough Police Department to hire on-site officers for the first 6 months of operation. Shall agree to grant the board jurisdiction over the application for 6 months after the issuance of certificate of occupancy to address issues related to lighting, noise, odor, traffic, and safety. Applicant shall comply with the Borough Code with respect to signage requirements. If any additional signage is proposed, applicant shall return to the board for additional approval. Applicant shall coordinate with the board planner to install opaque frosted or pattern or window coverings in compliance with state law. If window coverings include additional text or symbols, applicant may be required to obtain additional signage approval or subject to review by the Borough Zoning Officer and Board Planner. Applicant shall locate utilities and show the location of same on engineering site plans, shall provide ADA routes and spaces which comply with ADA requirements, and shall include notations on the plans. Applicant shall comply with the board engineer's report and recommendations, and shall work with the board engineer and police department to install traffic control devices and directional signage, and that was discussed tonight. The applicant shall screen up to 3 sides of the rooftop generator and HVAC units and coordinate with the board and borough professionals to finalize installation of screening. Shall coordinate with the landlord to establish employee parking in the rear of the property. Shall coordinate with neighboring tenants and landlord regarding dumpster locations to ensure same do not block drive aisles, and shall coordinate with neighboring tenants and landlord to ensure that there are no drive aisle conflicts with the Ethan Allen loading dock. Applicant shall adjust curbing and parking islands as necessary, subject to review and approval by the board engineer. If other uses on the property change, additional approvals from the borough and board will be needed for the property. The applicant shall install wayfinding signs that match the tenant space, shall coordinate with NJDOT to confirm signage at the egress only driveway, and shall install signage to reinforce same, subject to DOT approval, and shall coordinate with DOT to restripe the egress only driveway to discourage inbound traffic. Applicant shall install additional lighting as needed, subject to review and approval by the board engineer, and that was discussed tonight. And the applicant shall be permitted to the variance for the wayfinding sign. Oh, I mentioned that already. So that was everything I believe that was discussed at the prior meetings.
Okay,
Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
second.
I think I got
I just
just,
had one
I'm
thing.
sorry.
Sorry.
Walker.
Just in the beginning, Marina, you said 6 months for the law enforcement in the parking lot. That's to be critiqued at 6 months. Not a 6 months and done. We're gonna
Okay,
critique it to make sure that it's, everything's going right. And then we'll discuss with the management what, if anything, needs to go forward. But it wasn't a hard closure at 6 months.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, so with that qualification, do we have a second? I think Mr. Pfeffer, you had made the second? Okay,
Second.
All right. Mr. Caslin,
yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Kenigo,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board and municipal staff.
Congratulations all and good luck to you.
Congrats.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. We're going to continue on our agenda this evening under new business. Applicant is Ms. Yoo-Jung Kim. Property is 254 Midland Avenue. This is block 105, lot 12. Application seeking approval of a proposed detached garage with driveway. Good evening. I think the applicant is present and it looks like you have a couple of other folks with you, architect. Okay. So,
Yeah, sound on. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'll wait till you address that I can speak.
okay, well, who's going to be, like, let's see, if the applicant, I think the applicant is the three folks under Dan Kim?
Yes, we're the applicants. Yes.
Okay, good evening all.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so we've got the Sung Park is your
Yes,
architect,
Sung
and then we have
Park,
one other gentleman named
Yeah, I'm
Kim.
Martin Santini. I'm the architect for the client.
Okay, and we have one more gentleman, looks like in the gallery here, under Kim.
Yeah, I'm Ed, this represents the applicant.
I'm sorry, you are again, it sounded kind of garbled.
Oh, are you sitting in the same room?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Have to mute one of the, yeah, because there's an echo.
Yeah.
All right, so you're sitting right next to everyone? Okay.
All right. So how do you want to proceed, Marina? Should we swear everybody in or?
Mr. Santini's frame, if you can unmute. And then could you both identify yourself, state your name and last name and address for the record?
Martin Santini, Santini, 560 Sylvan Avenue, Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, Suite 1290.
And with you is another individual. Are they going to be providing testimony as well?
No, he's not.
My
This
name is Sung Park. My partner Martin Santini will testimony this project though.
Okay, and Mr. Santini, could you just provide some background on your
Yes.
experience?
Absolutely. I'm a licensed architect and a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey for the last 45 years. I have been practicing architecture and planning and have appeared before many planning and zoning boards throughout my career, including appearances in River Edge on many occasions in the past couple of years, I believe.
Okay, great.
Okay. Any questions
All
on Mr. Santini's qualifications from the board? Okay, thank you. Ms. Stanley?
All right, and then we'll move over to Mr. Kim. Mr. Santini, I have to swear you in. If you please
Sure.
raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely, I do.
Okay, thank you. And we'll move over to Mr. Kim's screen. If everyone could identify themselves, who's going to be giving testimony, state your name, provide your last name and your address. Okay.
Charles Park, 140 Sylvan Avenue, Suite 211, Inglewood Cliffs, New Jersey, 07631. I'm a friend, so I speak English. I'm kind of jumping in to help out with the situation.
Okay. All right, and who's next to you?
And John Kim?
She's the property owner.
Okay, so there's the applicant, okay?
And could you please provide your address, Ms. Kim?
207 Highwood Avenue, Leonia, New Jersey.
Okay, and then next to you, is that Mr. Kim? Okay.
Yes, this is Sung-wook Kim. I'm a real estate agent. I'm representing Miss Kim. And my address is 45 Merritt Drive, Oradell, New Jersey, 07649.
All right, great. And if you all would raise your right hand, do you swear from the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Absolutely.
I do.
And then the last frame will get you as well. If Mr. Park, you can mute your screen and then the other screen can be unmuted, I think, and then we can get the last person.
Yes. Oh.
Mr. Santini has to go on mute.
We'll mute.
Whoa.
Something. Okay.
Maybe Mr. Park, if you unmute and then you can just speak from the same computer.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah. Yep, that's good. Okay. Just
Yes.
introduce yourself, name, address.
Yeah, my name is Sung Kim. And I'm real estate agent. I'm representing the owner.
Okay.
And my address is 140 Sylvan Avenue, Suite 211, Inglewood Cliffs, New Jersey, 07632.
All right. And Mr. Kim, if you just raise your right hand, do you swear from the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. So we're all good to go. Whoever is going to start the presentation can begin.
Good evening. It's Martin Santini. I am going to start the presentation this evening for this application for Lot 12, Block 105, 254 Midland Avenue in River Edge. This is a very simple application. The applicant is looking to construct a 15 by 22 foot new car garage with a driveway that's accessible to Willow Street for accommodation of another car behind the actual garage. We are in compliance with the report that has been prepared by Mr. Costa's office as relates to some of the zoning information. And I believe that Mr. Costa's zoning table and zoning analysis is very succinct and very clear. And it does describe the accessory building requirements. And I would like to say that the building that we're proposing, the one-car garage that we are proposing, will be in compliance with the 12-foot height requirement and not 12-foot 0.5. We made an error in our drawings, and we will be in compliance. The height will be just 12 feet. So that one variance will be removed. And also, after reviewing Mr. Costa's very thorough report on this property. There is no front yard setback that would be required on Willow Street since Midland Avenue is considered the front yard for the subject property. So we are in compliance with that, and I appreciate Mr. Costa's team calling attention to that. So that eliminates 2 variances. So what we are here this evening to describe is a very modest single-story 1-car garage that's going to be in behind the existing residence that fronts on Midland Avenue with access to Willow Avenue. The architectural character of the proposed garage will match the existing house. There will be the same color that is used for the exterior siding. I believe it is a gray color that will be complementary to the existing building, so that it all looks uniform and compliant with the aesthetic ideas. Now, this project requires 2 cars for parking. There is no parking on site right now, and the benefits of this application being approved by the board would far outweigh any of the detriments that are perceived. Now, I'm going to get into the coverage, since this is a non-conforming lot. The lot size is required for this particular type of single-family residence in an R1 zone should be 7,500 feet. Obviously, the site is only 5,750 feet, so it is an existing non-conforming lot, and it is what we have. Given that, the maximum lot coverage of 25% that is required by the ordinance for the R1 single-family zone, the existing building of 1,530 square feet, that's the footprint, is already above that. It's 26.6%. So it already exceeds, the existing conditions exceed, because it's an undersized lot, there is a variance that's required for the existing. Now we're adding 330 square feet, which is the garage. So that increases the footprint from 1,530 to 1,860 square feet, which increases the percentage to 32.34%. And I respectfully request that the board consider that particular variance, since it's obviously a undersized lot. Now we are going to the improved lot coverage. The R1 zone allows for a 35% coverage for all the buildings and pavement on the site. The existing property right now has approximately 2,000 square feet of building and sidewalk, etc., which is 43.42%. What we would like to do is, since we are adding the driveway and we are adding the walkway and putting that into our calculation, the 35% would become 45.56%, and that is our second variance. And I think the board could approve the variances, the 2 variances that we are requesting, since it's an undersized lot, and since the benefits far outweigh the detriments, and the benefits are providing 2 off-street parking spaces. The approval of the project would not be detrimental to the intent and purpose of the zone plan or the zoning ordinance, and I believe you have the ability to act on this. I do want to say that we would comply with this project under the general conditions that Mr. Costa's office has prepared on page 3. We certainly will provide you with a new boundary survey that actually depicts the current conditions. The applicant made some modifications to the property, I believe, without permits on the exterior. They did some painting and some improvements. So those conditions are not reflected on the survey which we received and submitted to this board. The applicant is also, we wanted to make sure that the proposed colors of the garage are compatible with the intent and purpose of the zone, and they'll be complementary to the aesthetic values in the environment. And we wanted to state that we will definitely take into recommendation Mr. Costa's use of having the driveway and the walkway be included with a permeable surface, such as a grass block or a geo block. And we certainly could work with Mr. Costa's office to get the exact terminology and technology that they're recommending that we use for that surface. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we would be in compliance with the other items for this existing 3-bedroom house. I believe it's approximately 2,990 square feet is the total area of the house. It does have the 3 bedrooms. It will have 2 off-street parking spaces. And I believe that the proposed improvements will be beneficial to the intent and purpose of the zone plan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Santini. Let me turn to our professionals. Mr. Barons, are you going to be covering the zoning this evening?
Yeah, I'll take a crack at it. Sure. So, thank you, Mr. Santini. First question, you mentioned there had been some modifications done, including painting, ... What were the rest of the modifications that had been done?
There was, I believe, a new sidewalk that was added from to the rear of the house to the actual property line and the sidewalk. And I believe the applicant put their own sidewalk on Willow Street, to the best of my recollection. And that may be a question you may have to ask them.
That is correct, sir, if I may jump in. And she paid her own funds to do it. I believe that belongs to the River Edge, and she already spent her own cash to fix that.
Okay. So I wanted to just be able to bring that to the board's attention so that we can be completely transparent. And Mr. Barons, thank you. That was a good question.
So to clarify, one of the walkways is on the property. We'll call it in the northerly side yard / rear of the property. And I think we're talking about a public sidewalk improvement along Willow in the right of way?
Yes, along Willow Avenue, there was a sidewalk that has been put in, and Mr. Costa's report, if you look at pages, whatever they are, there are 2 photographs that illustrate that very clearly. It's on page 7 of Mr. Costa's engineering report. You could see that there is a municipal sidewalk, I'm going to call it, because it does follow and connect to the existing sidewalks further north.
Okay. So one of the issues that we had discussed with the completeness review is the accuracy of the plans and being able to understand what the accurate calculations are. So I don't know if the board can act. Well, I'd suggest the board probably can't act this evening if they don't know what the numbers are. So you gave the numbers that you have on your current plan, but obviously you'd have to update the survey and provide a new plan that reflects exactly what exists and what is proposed. So how far off are we in terms of what you show and what was added after the fact?
I don't think that we're that far off. I think that if we have the opportunity to get a brand new boundary survey with some conditions, with all of the conditions as illustrated that exist, we certainly could make the revised calculations for the maximum lot coverage and also for the maximum improved lot coverage.
Right.
And I don't think we're going to be very far off from where we are, the numbers that we presented.
Right.
And also, I think with the permeable pavers, we certainly, I believe, are entitled to some kind of a credit for the coverage as relates to that. And I could coordinate with Mr. Costa's office to actually get the benefits, because I believe I saw somewhere in the report that if you use the permeable pavers, there is a credit, a 50% credit. Am I speaking correctly?
That
on
sounds about right. So those pavers would be what, where the driveway is located?
Yes, those pavers would go from the front of the garage that's facing Willow Street and go out to the existing curb.
Okay, so we would need those calculations. I don't think we could do this on the fly tonight, with all due respect. I
No
mean,
problem.
you know,
We're
and it might actually help your client in this case. So,
yes.
You know, without belaboring the point, so you know, this is located on the corner of Midland and Willow. Certainly, Midland is a heavily trafficked roadway. The property currently doesn't have parking. The idea of providing parking on site seems to make sense. There's a question of the how, obviously, and the way they're proposing is via a one-car detached garage, 22 by 15, and an 18 by 15 driveway, which could really accommodate one car on the driveway, one car in the garage. So 2 parking spaces, essentially. And so I guess the question would be, is there a benefit of having the detached garage versus pavement? Certainly, there are a lot of, you know, many houses in River Edge have garages. There's a question. I don't think the size is too far off. 22 feet in length seems reasonable. 15 feet in width, you know, I don't think you could take too much off of that. So again, it's a question of, you know, what would the better configuration be? Certainly, this is the proposal. I think we really just need the numbers, and certainly because you are well above and beyond what the borough permits in terms of coverage, is there proposed a stormwater mitigation plan?
That is my understanding, that we will be in compliance with the requirements of the Costa Engineering report. Yes, sir. We will have to give the borough that information for Costa's office to analyze it and make it, or to determine that it's going to be in compliance.
Okay. Just 2 more. So will there be any utilities in the garage?
Only electric, from my understanding. That's it. There's nothing, that will not be a habitable space in any way, shape, or form. It'll be just used for parking and for storage and landscape tools and those kinds of things.
All right, thank you. The final is just a comment. I think Mr. Santini, you mentioned that the house is currently a 3-bedroom house.
Yes, sir.
As it exists today. So if you provide, hypothetically, if the board approves this application or some form of this application with 2 spaces, and at some point in the future, the house gets enlarged and has more bedrooms, you may run into a parking compliance situation. So that's more for
Absolutely.
your information. So we'll stay focused on what's being proposed today, but just want to throw that out there for your client's benefit. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Flores, I turn to you.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Santini, for the for the presentation. So I want to apologize to everybody at the beginning of the meeting for, you know, within the, you know, just to put on the record. So the application was deemed incomplete based on, you know, the site plan details of the ordinance 350-18, 19, and 20. So that's the reason why our office, you know, deemed the application incomplete, because that was the checklist, and you know, most of the boxes check off except for, you know, update survey. Besides that, Mr. Santini, again, thank you for the presentation. I have a couple of questions for you. Actually, yes, it's for you and maybe your client. I know the sidewalk was completed, right? And I'm the project engineer for the town as well. So you know, I'm not sure if your client is aware that there is a sidewalk permit that needs to be pulled up in order to implement any improvement on the public right of way.
There has not been a permit that was pulled for that work to the best of my knowledge.
안 받았다는데.
Okay,
Can I, based on my applicant is telling me she got a permit from the River Edge.
she got a
Oh.
permit from
Yes.
River Edge.
For
To
the
complete the
sidewalk,
sidewalk, yes.
can you produce that, please? So that I could submit it to the engineer's office?
He said, yes, we can.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
please,
you. That's
yes.
great.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate that, because, as per my conversation with the superintendent of the town, because he's the one that conducts the inspection on the sidewalk, he wasn't aware of it. And we want to make sure that it's 4-foot sidewalk, because it's heavily pedestrian travel in that area, especially with the kids near the school. We gotta make sure they have the standard size, that's all. Another question is, did you guys remove any tree on site?
Say that again, Mr. Flores. I didn't catch that.
Was any tree removal done on site?
So
Sanitary sewer?
yes,
No,
the applicant,
tree removal, tree removal.
Oh, tree removals.
yes. So, the reason she had to, because these trees were rotten and, it wasn't a live trees. Let's just call it was very rotten. So she had to remove those.
Do you have any pictures of those trees that were removed?
추리를 했다는 거 아니에요? 안에 우주.
No, she didn't take the pictures prior to taking down.
Okay.
Oh, just she's checking it, but
체킹할 건데 없을 것 같아.
Do you know how many trees were
look
removed?
this, look it.
I can remember.
She's not sure, quite sure.
없어.
Well, just to,
허물 같은 거는 픽처는 있는데 없어.
yeah, she didn't take the pictures before she took it down. But I know this means not much, but she was telling me that all the neighbors behind the house, subject property, they were complimenting her and thanking her for removing those trees because it was blocking the streets. And
여기 있는데.
이거요?
픽처.
어떤 거예요?
이거? 응. 아니, 나무는 안 없앴어요. 이거.
요거? That's it?
walkway.
나무 tree.
안 없앴어.
Submitted.
Wait, I'm sorry. She said she didn't remove the trees. It's just 이거예요 다.
이 나무 걸어 walkway.
이거 말하는 거예요.
아니 나무 안 없앴어.
Oh, she's telling them there were no trees. She just removed these
shrubs.
Highways. I'm sorry.
walkway.
She only removed these stuff. She didn't remove any. 거기 트리가 없었어.
없었어.
나한테 트리 있다고.
Okay, so I'm right now on Google Earth. So it looks like there is a lot of shrubs. And my question is just because I can see, I visit the site and there were 2 trees that are within the right of way. So that belongs to River Edge. So I just want to make sure those trees were not touched. That's all.
Okay, no.
If there were any other
She
trees,
didn't take any
I want.
trees down. She said she didn't
Okay.
take any trees
Okay.
down.
Okay, and then can I get a clarification on how much sidewalk was done? I mean, because I know that on the back of the property there was a sidewalk leading to Willow Avenue, and then on the side of the property there was a sidewalk leading to Midland Avenue, and I believe both of them were replaced.
Mr. Flores, all I can tell you is that we'll have a new survey prepared and it'll depict exactly what the conditions are today. We will do those calculations. We will provide them to you and to Mr. Behrens, and we'll go from there with the numbers. That's the most appropriate way of doing it to satisfy the requirements of the municipality and to assist the applicant in trying to get this approved.
Thank you. And my last question that I have will be, stormwater management, I guess we'll address once you pull up the, the
Yeah, once we get the new
soil movement. No, once you remember, you have to pull a soil movement permit. So we can address that at that.
Very
At
good.
the level as well.
Thank you.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Flores. Let me turn to the board for questions. Mr. Givens, can I start with you?
Yes. So just to confirm, I don't know if this, Ms. Steinley, did that ordinance actually pass now with the credit?
That was one matter that I was going to bring up, was that this application was submitted after the borough adopted an updated ordinance on with the building coverage numbers and the lot coverage numbers. So we're going to have to go off of those new numbers and work with, and because this application was submitted after the ordinance was adopted, they also get the benefit of the discount for the permeable pavers that we had discussed. So once we get all the new, the survey with the accurate depiction of what's there, then Jason's office can calculate what the actual building coverage, lot coverage, and discount will be.
Okay, because the question is twofold, really. It's for the proposed driveway, and it's also that I don't see a patio deck or anything like that on this property. So I believe we had a set aside for that as well. Is that accurate for the ordinance that passed?
Yes, there was a set aside, and you could get a bonus if you had, if you install yard amenities like a patio. And
Well, I don't know that it was a bonus, but it was that you had to have that set aside. So my concern is that we're looking at a property that's going to be 45% covered, probably more, because I don't believe that the numbers are accurate. We could be getting to 47, 48, and there's no patio. So I get we're going to get a credit if we're using the certain products for the driveway. But I'm very concerned that this property is going to be completely overdeveloped. And I'm not sure, I mean, I don't know if Mr. Flores or Mr. Behrens can comment to this. Is there a logical permeable option for a driveway? I know when we spoke about the ordinance, it was more looked at as a patio option. I don't know that there's a permeable option to use as a driveway, and I could be completely wrong. I don't know. Is anyone aware of a product that is permeable that's suitable for a driveway?
Just environmental pavers?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are commercial parking lots that are paved with either permeable pavers or even asphalt. So it does exist. It has to meet the specifications. So it would just be a residential application of that, is my understanding.
I'm just not aware of that product. If it exists, then that's a moot point.
I believe it does exist, but again, it's just finding it and installing it the right way.
Okay.
We certainly know of products. There's a GeoBlock that is a product that is used out there for permeability, as well as the grass block. I'm sure you're familiar with the grass block and have seen those. So that might be an option, and we could review that with Mr. Costa's office.
Okay, because if we're applying that 50% discount, especially for a driveway, I think that would need to be done there. So that's really my concern, is that you or the next person that owns this house is going to ask for a patio. And we're already looking at a property that's at least 45% covered. That's an issue. And I just wanted to also confirm, I'm looking at the pictures of Mr. Costa's report, and I'm looking at Google Earth, and I'm not seeing a full picture of the length of Willow, but I think there was a tree pulled down there. And I'd have to walk down that myself. But there was definitely two trees on the right of way that existed as of when this Google Earth was done. So is it the testimony that there were no trees removed between the sidewalk and the curb on Willow.
So
She said no.
So those trees did not exist when she purchased the property.
I mean, I'm sure you guys already know, this house has been vacant for almost, I believe, 13 years.
Right, but I'm looking at Google Earth from 2018 and there's 2 trees.
프론트에 요거 하나 있는 거 코너에 그거 데코레이트 하는 거 요거 치웠는데 이거
Mr. Gibbons, based on the cost report, it looks like at least one of them exists, but that poses a question about, it looks like it's in the line of the driveway. So.
Yeah, so it
Chairman?
looks like one is there and one is not.
Mr. Chairman.
안 뽑혔어 진짜로. 있어야 돼서 거기.
Oh, she's saying the trees are still there right now, so.
So there's 2 trees along Willow Avenue.
안 뽑혔어.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, we'll have to note those on a new survey. We will depict the size and all the information provided to Mr. Barron's and Mr. Costa's office, and we'll make a determination if that's going to be acceptable to remove the tree. Maybe we'll have to relocate or replant a new tree.
I mean, I'm looking at the same images that Mr. Gibbons is looking at, and those trees have grown into overhead utility lines. So it's possible they were taken down at some point. But yeah, we'll need that identified in your revised plans. Mr. Pfeffer, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you. A comment and a question. Initially, I was just going to make the comment that it may be that if there were trees there that are not there anymore, it could be that the town removed them. It doesn't necessarily mean that Ms. Kim removed them. But be that as it may, I would propose that we kind of short circuit tonight's discussion, because we're going to need to get the new survey. And I'm sure once we see the new survey, there's going to be questions based on that. So rather than ask a lot of questions tonight that really can't be definitively answered unless we have the survey, I would just propose that we table this to the next meeting, or as soon as it's practical to get it on the agenda, and also get a new survey. And then we can, reserve all our decisions till that time. I mean, not our decisions, our questions to that time.
That's fine. We've heard testimony this evening, and certainly give the board the benefit of making those inquiries now, to the extent they have them. If not, we'll go around and we'll be done very, very rapidly. So, if you have nothing further, I'm just going to move around the room quickly.
No, I'm just concerned about the overall coverage. So this is just a general, put this out there to the applicant. I'm concerned about the overall coverage that will result. And I'm concerned that there's no patio, and someone is going to come back to us asking us for a patio or deck in the near future.
And my point, not in contention to what Mr. Gibbons is saying, but my point is just, I'm suggesting to my colleagues on the board that we refrain from asking a lot of questions tonight, to which the answer will be, we need to see the survey. Because
okay, but we could have just said it was incomplete. We said it was complete.
Well, we needed to hear the testimony. We needed to hear what the proposal is. And now we know what the proposal is. So, and it's obvious that Mr. Santini has said he's going to produce a new survey. So why don't we just wait for the new survey? That's all I'm saying.
I'm supplying concerns that I have.
That's fine. And I think the question Mr. Gibbons is asking is if there's a patio, I think is a relevant question, and I have no issue with that. So.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments from the board at this time? Mr. Kanigo.
Yeah, looking at that same page 7 from Costa's report, it looks like there was a walkway also recently installed. Is that right? So now, looking at the papers that we have, you're already way over on the coverage. Did you get a permit for that walkway? Did you
mean
get
the
a
sidewalk
variance for the walkway?
In front of a driveway, sir?
The walkway that looks on page 7, there's a walkway. It's a new walkway next to the house. And if you look at the Google picture from 2018, that walkway was a beaten up old wooden walkway. And the new walkway is a beautiful new stone walkway. So was a permit obtained for that stone walkway?
요건 안 했어.
Oh, this stone walkway, she did not.
She did not obtain a permit?
It was rotten wood, so she changed it.
Did she obtain a permit for the change?
No permit.
No, she didn't.
All right. I don't have anything else right now. I certainly would like to see the new survey, and I have the same concerns that Mr. Gibbons voiced about the coverage, even though it's an undersized lot. The increase in coverage is quite large, and I have concerns about the fact that work was done that required town approval, that required town oversight, and that was not requested. And I have an issue with that as well. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on the board?
Okay.
Ms. Boland?
Yeah, I have a comment. Obviously, it's nice to have a garage and a driveway. People need that. But I think when you do get your new survey, you should be ready to testify to what you might be willing to remove in lieu to keep the driveway, some of those sidewalks. It sounds like there's a lot of sidewalks that you may not need, especially the rear one, if you now have a driveway that you can walk up. So just so you can be prepared to maybe remove some of what you have on site in order to have the driveway.
We will take that under advisement and coordinate with the owner and come back to you with a suggestion.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
All right.
I have one comment. I guess I'm a little disturbed that, as Mr. Kaniga was, I think, there's a little bit of a cavalier attitude about requirements here. I mean, aside from putting in that sidewalk without permits, we made an application tonight that specifically needs variance on coverage, and you knew you had a survey that wasn't accurate, right? You knew that. Because as soon as we brought it up, you were able to talk to the items that are not on the survey. I find it disturbing that you give us an inaccurate survey, knowing it's an inaccurate survey and knowing that the inaccuracy speaks directly to the variance you're asking for. That bothers me. So I don't know what that means. I'm going to think about your proposal, but it bothers me that you're cavalier about the requirements of getting permits for work at your house and the variances that you're asking for.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Craig. At this point, Mr. Santini, you've heard from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I have comments.
Okay, Mr. Merman?
Okay. Mr. Santini,
Yes,
it's my understanding that your client is going to leave the existing walkway that parallel to the house and runs out to Willow Street. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Well, I would imagine that your client is also going to install a walkway between the garage and the walkway we just described next to the house.
Yes, sir,
Is
that's
that
correct. It'll be connection.
correct? Okay. Now, if we look at your survey, you will see that on the side yard there, the east side, that there is a stoop into the house that you're going to be hooking into. If I would strongly suggest when you do your new calculations, and you've heard it from the board, that the walkway, the concrete walkway from that stoop to Midland Avenue be removed. That will reduce your coverage considerably. Do you agree that you will remove that?
We will take that under advisement. Excuse me. Once we have the new survey, we will make the determination if that existing walkway should be removed.
You don't need it, and I will not make a motion that continues the use of that sidewalk. I will make you come back again. So my suggestion is, from a standpoint of unnecessary use and excessive coverage, and you've heard the comments from other board members that we should be reducing any excess runoff from impervious pavement that we can.
Duly noted, sir.
So can I put words in your mouth that you will remove this concrete sidewalk?
I would
didn't hear
have to ask the client. Once we have the new survey, we will make a determination, and it's the owner's and the applicant's prerogative.
Mr. If I may, they need to get the new survey so they can get all their numbers straight, so they can decide what is going to be removed, what's going to be kept. It'll be discussed at a later meeting.
Yes.
I'm trying to avoid a return of the applicant. And obviously he's not helping.
We need the updated survey in order, so we have
I
to.
further understand that, but we don't need, we're gonna do new calculations. So let's set the calculations so we don't have to count this impervious material that is bothering some of the board members. Now, do you want to ask your client now, or are we going to come back to another meeting?
Well, I think we're coming back to another meeting anyway, Mr.
Okay.
Merman. I don't think we have a choice here. So I think based on what we've discussed this evening and the findings of the deficiencies in the plans, Mr. Santini has some work to do. And he has to confer with his client on those points. So I think at this point, based on where we stand, I would suggest that we allow Mr. Santini some time to go back, get a revised survey. And I would strongly recommend, Mr. Santini, that your plans, your submissions be as detailed as possible to address the issues that the board has raised this evening.
Yes, sir.
So with that,
I have no further comments.
Mr. Merman, you're all set? All right. Ms. Tyler, we'll need a motion to carry this out.
I just had one, it'll be a yes and no question. Were permits taken for interior work on the home?
Yes.
Because I understand a full bath was added to the property. Is that, were permits taken for the interior for that work?
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just a little concerned that they weren't done outside, that they were done inside. So, okay, thank you.
Okay. So Ms. Tyler, we'll need a motion to carry the application, I presume.
Yes.
Okay.
And maybe Mr. Santini, how much time do you need to get the updated documents, and take in mind that they need to be submitted 10 days before the hearing?
I don't think that we can get it done until the November meeting.
Okay, let us, so you'll confer with Mr. Alter and he'll coordinate the scheduling when you have your plans set and ready to be submitted. Okay.
Is the first November meeting?
What date in November is that?
November 8th.
November 8th?
November 6th, I'm sorry.
November 6th.
Election day. Oh, no, is it the 5th?
No, it should be a Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday, the 6th, yeah.
Yeah, 11/6.
Okay.
All right.
I think that we can accommodate and get everything submitted in prior to 10 days in advance, then we'll coordinate with Mr. Costa's office to make sure that we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's.
Okay, very good, sir. With that, I'll look for a motion to carry this application, please.
So moved.
All right, I think I got Mr. Pfeffer on a first, Mr. Cray on a second.
And we can do a voice
You
vote.
want to do a voice vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? Okay, this application is carried. Ms. Snively, if you would kindly do the honors.
Yes, the application for Kim 254 Midland Avenue, Block 105, Lot 12 will be carried to the board's November 6th meeting without further notice. And I just ask that the applicant send an email to Ed Alter, just saying that they consent to an extension of time for the board to act on the application until the November 6th meeting. So just that you agree that we're carrying it to November 6th. Okay, all
Yes, ma'am.
right, thank you.
Okay, thank you all. If nothing further this evening from the board, we're done with our agenda. I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Canino. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Boland. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed, any abstain? We stand adjourned at 9:05 p.m. Thank you all. Have a great night.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good night.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.